Republican Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, the FBI is claiming that they are being transparent. Watch this.
We want to be transparent with the public. Years of the FBI not being transparent. We're being as transparent as we possibly can. Unfortunately, as we're being transparent, unfortunately for that, there is some information that we have to go back and recorrect.
So, Senator, are you satisfied with what the FBI is sharing with you all?
Charlie, first off, let me express my condolences to the victims of, or the families of 14 victims of this terror attack in New Orleans yesterday. I can tell you Congress hasn't gotten much more than what you've seen in the news. It's true that the FBI has had to take back some of its statements. Like yesterday, for instance, the very first thing the local agent in charge said was, "This is not an act of terrorism." That seems to be the FBI's instinct in most cases when something like this happens. Usually, most people with common sense can say, gosh, that looks like terrorism to me. Now, we shouldn't jump to conclusions, but the FBI shouldn't jump to conclusions either, especially in a way that tends to be politically correct and to protect President Biden from political repercussions. You know, in wartime, first reports from the front are often, even usually, incomplete or even incorrect. That can be the case in investigations as well. It's fine for the FBI to say we're keeping all options open, we're exploring the evidence, we're taking it to its logical conclusion, as opposed to always jumping to the politically correct conclusion.
I think it's a very good point. You know, I have to ask you, just because of your own military service, I'm just sort of puzzled by all of this. In both the cases in New Orleans and in Las Vegas, you have people who had extensive military service. And in the case of the guy in Las Vegas, he was a Green Beret. He was a Special Forces soldier. And just, what is your reaction to that?
Well, Charlie, as your last guest, Colonel Dale said, that case in Las Vegas does seem somewhat puzzling. So I'll take my own advice on there and not jump to conclusion. I'll let the facts lead us where they will in coming days. In the New Orleans attack, this terrorist appears to have been radicalized well after he left the Army, but it is the case that sometimes bad apples slip through the system in our military. Remember Nidal Hasan, the Fort Hood shooter from about 15 years ago. However, the Biden administration for 4 years has stuck its head in the sand to the threat of Islamic terrorism. If you recall, President Biden and the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense have all said the biggest threat we face is from racially and ethnically motivated terrorism, specifically white supremacist terror. They launched a witch hunt in our military to try to find all these apparent white supremacists in our military, and they could barely find any at all. Most of what they found were criminal gang members. It's just another example of the misplaced priorities of this administration. With the FBI, they've had time to chase down every grandma in a red MAGA hat who attended President Trump's rally at the Ellipse 4 years ago on Monday, or to target parents who go to school boards, or traditional Catholics, or pro-life protesters. Yet, once again, we have a terror attack happen, and the FBI agent in charge rushes out and says, nothing to see here, not a terrorist event at all. The FBI needs to do a much better job establishing the kind of culture from the top that serves the thousands of brave men and women who are on the front lines of the FBI trying to keep this country safe. And that's what the American people expect. That's what President Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel will do once they take the helm.
Well, I also look forward to hearings in the Senate with the heads of the FBI and some of these other agencies to see if they're still mostly concerned about white supremacy as opposed to terror attacks like this. Thank you, Senator, for joining us.